Hey guys, Dane here, Adaptive Exercise and Rehab, coming back to you with another video about transfers and how wheelchair-bearing individuals do transfers from one station to another station, and how adaptive exercise specialists do transfers for clients who are full quadriplegics. So, as I mentioned, this video is going to be going over transfers and the variety that we do transfers here at NeuAbility. So transfers in general are going to be pretty bountiful. They're going to be quite a bit of variety going about with the kind of the variety of function that clients have. So with transfers, we're looking at basically spanning from high-level quadriplegics to individuals who are essentially just wheelchair bound because it's for stability. So with high-level quadriplegics, we're looking at a two-person transfer. So high-level quadriplegics, we're looking at individuals who have no volitional use of their neck, or below their neck, I should say rather. So that right there entails we're having to do entirely dependent movements. So the client is entirely dependent on the staff to be able to move them from one station to the next. So a two-person transfer, you have the lead as the trainer who's doing the upper portion. And I've always described that as taking about 80% of the person's body weight as we're moving their hips and their upper body from one station to the next station. But since it's a two-person transfer, you're needing somebody else to help with their lowers. So typically that person is grabbing onto the person's knees, and then from there we're just kind of kicking them over segment by segment and breaking it up, kind of what's going to be doable for the two individuals. Outside of a two-person transfer, like I said, that's very dependent. There's a single-person transfer utilized with a slide board. This can be done with a kind of a lower level quadriplegic who has use of their arms, as they're able to wrap their hands around the backside of your neck or kind of grab onto you for stability. But with the slide board, you're basically able to put their chest on your chest, grab onto their hips, and then slide them with a frictionless surface on the slide board from one station to the other station. Typically with that, it's going to help a lot to be able to have gravity on your side and use a gravity gradient from high to low, as you can actually have the person slide directly down into position then too. Another single person transfer that can be done that's analogous to a slide board transfer but does not use a slide board is a single person arms wrapped around transfer. This right here basically is a little bit more functionally dependent. So if the client has more use of their biceps and can kind of wrap or bind their hands behind them, behind the backside of your head or your neck, it creates a lot more stability for them. But basically as as the client is needing to transfer here, they will lean forward, and then you are basically grabbing onto their hips as you lean forward into position from there. And then basically you do a 1, 2, 3, and then as you're blocking their knees with your knees, you're basically just leaning backwards as they're pulling onto your neck, and then you're guiding their hips from one station to the next. Again, gravity gradient is going to be incredibly important on that one too, as you can go down a gravity or down gravity gradient, allowing you to have just less body weight and just more assistance then too. So going back to the slide board, another transfer that can be done single person just with the trainer by themselves is a single person independent slide board transfer. This is again for lower level quadriplegics or higher level paraplegics. This right there is basically entailing you're going to basically slide the slide board underneath their leg. It's something that can be done entirely independent by the client if needed, but just kind of speeds up efficiency if the trainer can help out a little bit. And again, basically what you're doing is you're just helping them slide their hips over from one station to the next. So from their chair over to your table or over to the machine that you're working on. Again, using gravity is very helpful on that also. Outside of that transfer, outside of a slide board, there's also a popover transfer. This is what you'll see a lot of paraplegics do as they have full use of their upper body and their arms. So basically what they can do is they can kind of lean themselves forward, straighten their arms out, and then push themselves up, and then kick their hips off to the side and move their hips from one station to the next station, basically allowing them to get their hips in position so their center of mass and their center of gravity is in space, in the right spot, and then they're able to use points of stability with their chair being locked to move their upper body and then their hips into better space to be able to make sure they're a little more comfortable and more set then too. Popover transfer is something that fair amount of quadriplegics, lower level quadriplegics, have the intent to be able to do and have the desire to do, because it gives them more independence and allows them to use less assistive aids to be able to transfer from one space to the next space. Another transfer is the partner assisted transfer. This is basically, again, depending on how much function a client has. So this is with individuals who typically have incomplete cervical spine injuries, where they have some volitional use of their spasms or volitional use of their muscles below their injury sites, particularly in their legs. So essentially what they'll do is you'll do in their chair, you'll do a 1, 2, 3, and then you pull them forward, allowing their center of gravity and their center of mass to be over their feet, and then they're able to drive straight on up to stand straight. And then from there, like we kind of described it in the past, it's a little bit of a dance as you're moving their hips from one leg back to the other leg, so they're able to move the opposite of their plant leg into position. So it is a little bit of a dance and is a little bit of a choreographed thing. You have to have the trainer has to make sure that their feet are out of the way of the client as they're stepping from place to place. But it's a very efficient transfer. It can be done arguably in any place too, and high utility behind it too. Again, the function of the client really is dependent on that also though. Arguably one of the more specialized transfers that we have, or that we utilize at NeuAbility, is our roll transfer. So a roll transfer is essentially trying to get somebody who is with a disability from a supine position, so laying on their back, to laying on their stomach. So a few considerations that we have to have with this is, when we do get them onto their stomach, are they gonna need some type of abdominal or core support so that they don't have any type of crushing motion on their shoulders? Additionally, with that kind of bolster that they would potentially need, are they gonna have a suprapubic catheter or some type of issue with their catheterization that would allow them to have some type of discomfort or kind of event that could happen post position? So from the roll transfer though, what we're trying to do essentially is we're trying to move them, like I said, from a supine position to a prone position. So from on their back to on their stomach. How we do this is, again, with a 2-person lift. The trainer as the lead is going to do the uppers, and they're going to be taking, again, about 80% of the work. The person doing the lowers is essentially letting the legs roll in their hands. So as you can see with this video right here, we're basically transferring a high-level quadriplegic from the table to the power plate. With his individual, we need to be conscious of his forearm position once he gets in space. So the other trainer asked me to come around and basically guide his arms into space so that he could have forearm support and upper arm support, so he didn't have his face smashed into the ground. So as she is basically transferring him, she is trying to roll his hips from supine to prone. So how we do that typically is we just are pushing our hips with their hips and just rolling this direction right here. And as I mentioned before too, with the lowers, the individual who's helping the trainer, the lead on that transfer, they're essentially just letting the legs roll into position, and then they're making sure that the catheter, if the client does have a catheter, does not get clogged or discharged or any type of snags or anything of the sort like that. Once the client's in position, typically it's not very comfortable for them to be staying there very long, so we try to get them up out of that position into a half kneeling or tall kneeling position relatively quickly. But the quicker you can do the roll transfer and the quicker you can get a person from a prone position to a half kneeling or tall kneeling position, the better it is for the entire sequence of events too. And then the better circumstances are if they do have a catheter and you're basically lying on that or something were to go wrong, the less of an impact that would have then too. So that right there is a video of detailed analysis of how we do transfers at NeuAbility, and then how clients who are wheelchair bound do transfers in general too. Some of these transfers are very dependent. Basically, if the training staff, as myself, is working with a high-level quadriplegic, I am slightly stuck on how I'm able to transfer them over from one position to the next. We did recently purchase a Hoyer lift that allows us to be able to do have more independence on that, but then there's also the time requirements that takes with that also too. So I know with the hour that we have at NeuAbility, I try to shoot for as much efficiency as possible, so that's where our interns and our basically our volunteer staff are so crucial for us to have, and that's where they also get the hands-on experience too. But if you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And if you guys like the video, please feel free to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks again for watching. Peace.